I got my master's degree in curriculum and instruction and educational leadership. And then I got my first leadership job as an assistant principal in Commerce City at Kearney Middle School. And probably the biggest blessing of my life was my boss at that job. I got to work for one of the kindest, student-centered educators I think probably ever lived, ever made, in Kathy Hieronyma. And I learned so much from her. I learned about how to always put the student and the community's needs ahead of my own. I learned about creating learning environments where students thrive because the adults are so happy to be there. So it's really a really nice first leadership experience for me. I got to work under her for 4 years. And in that time, we shifted the culture at Kearney and moved our school from priority improvement to performance in a 3-year time. I'm currently the proud principal at Prairie View Middle School, which is in Brighton 27J schools. I'm in my 6th year there. And we've been able to do a lot of climate and culture work as a staff. And I believe it's the shared vision that we've created, the core values that we've collaboratively created as a staff that has allowed us to do some of that academic improvements that have needed to happen. So our school went from priority improvement and is currently in performance status, and we're the only middle school in 27J that has reached performance and has maintained there. I'm most proud of my students and staff for their work around creating learning environments that everybody wants to be a part of. I truly believe that happy adults equal happy kids. If I'm not meeting the needs as the school leader of the adults that are serving children, the kids aren't going to want to be there, and they're not going to be able to be their best. So I'm most proud of the work that we've done as an entire staff at Prairie View Middle School around creating a clear vision, core values that align to that vision, and making sure that we are able to be our best for the kids that we serve every day. My favorite indicator for how myself and our staff is doing in meeting and living our core values is student voice. Student voice at my current school is the pulse, and I really believe that that should be the case in all schools. At my school, we do a monthly perception survey where students are able to tell us as a staff how we're doing in meeting their educational expectations, but also how are we doing in making them feel safe and making them feel welcome and making sure everybody's included. And so we get a monthly check from all of our kids. We also do student panels quarterly. So after we've spent about 8 weeks learning a skill in professional learning, we bring the kids in and we ask them, how's that translating in the classroom? Is that working for you? And I've really found that that's helped some of our late adapters really see, like, when a kid can explain the impact you're having on their learning every day, every teacher wants to do what's best by kids. So that's been really helpful. That work around student voice has allowed me to connect with different international and national conferences and be able to speak to the importance of student voice and how we use that to monitor implementations of systems and structures in our building. When I'm not principaling, I'm either spending time with my 6-year-old. I have a son, he's 6, and he's crazy, and he's wild, and he always wants to be doing something active. He attends Isabella Bird, which is our neighborhood school. It's a part of Denver Public Schools. So he attends that school. And my husband, Lucas, he's a project manager. So between the 3 of us, we spend a lot of time on our bikes and out and about trying to keep up with my son. And we play a lot of Mario Brothers on the Switch. And according to my son, I suck at all the Marios except Super Mario. I think it was like, back in the day, it was like the 3rd one that came out when I was playing it for the first time. And he's like, Mom, you gotta stick to the ones where there's just one guy. I'm like, yes, I don't need multiple guys. So I'm working on that. I'm also an adjunct professor at Regis University in their educational leadership program. I teach a class around efficacious teams, so like building and nurturing efficacious teams to move schools through change. And so that's really been fun. It allows me to stay current with instructional strategies, but also helps me see like another glimpse at how hard public education is right now. And it really helps me understand the importance of my role as a school leader in keeping the adults happy, keeping the adults healthy, and making sure that they're able to be their best. So I think all of those things is why I'm here, so I'm super excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Awesome, thank you. So now we have 3 questions for you to answer. We will ask the first one, I'll read it. If you need me to read it back to you, please just let me know, because it's not, since we wrote them tonight, it won't be on the screen for you.
Okay.
So don't look at the screen, it's not going to help you out. So the first question is, where is teacher retention on your list of priorities? And what is your plan to retain teachers?
So a huge part, right, of having a staff that can have a collective vision, right? Your staff has to stay. They have to stay. They have to believe in the work that they're doing, and they have to see the positive impact that it has for kids. Teacher retention is critical to that, always. But now, as we're moving into these times of teacher shortages, it's more important. We've got to take the people we have that have dedicated their time in their life to being here for kids and help them be the best they can be for kids. You don't go into teaching if you don't want that. So teacher retention is huge, but that's the role of the principal, right? So hiring the best people to put in front of children at all times, helping them, right? So it's, where are you? Where are you at in your skill set of teaching? How can we get you support if you need it? How can we push you, right? Like that group of teachers that's 7 to 10 years in, right? They're not new, they're staying, they love it. Their rooms are great. You can't ignore those rooms. You gotta help that level of teacher as well to continue to grow, to continue to love the craft, to continue to show up for kids. So I think a large part of retaining teachers is making sure that they feel loved, that they feel valued, that they see that the purpose of the work that they do and how important that is. We just had, you guys know, this year has been like, I thought last year was gonna be the hardest year in education, but last year was so easy compared to this year. And so it's really been about taking care of the people. We just had a masseuse in last week, coffee cart people. I eat. This is my coping strategy. It's not a good coping strategy, but it's what I got. It's what I'm working with. So I eat, and so then I feel like everyone else should eat. They'll be so happy if I just keep feeding them. So we feed people. We bring in the masseuse. I have an acupuncturist that does like community style acupuncture with my teachers, and we kind of rotate through some of those on professional learning days. But it's really about, as the leader, being clear about where we're going, being clear and sharing that vision, doing it in a way that inspires others to come with you, right? Like, I don't want you to do it because you feel like you have to. I want you to do it because you want to do it. You love it, and you want to do it, and you want to get better, right? It's about providing support and coaching and tools. If people aren't meeting the expectation, a large part of that's probably on me, right? So have I given the tools? Have I given the opportunities for everybody to get what they need to meet those expectations? It's about saying thank you. It's about appreciating the people that show up every single, right now, like at my school, dress code's like, you're here, man. You're here, you're on time, you continue to show up for kids. I appreciate that, right? Like, everything's harder right now, it feels like. So give the little bones where you can so people know that you appreciate their efforts and their energies. Because like I said before, if the teachers are happy, the kids will be happy. So super important to retain them. It does take time. Right, like the person that gets this job won't have a lot of impact on teachers this year, right, staying or leaving. Hopefully they can come in and meet with the teachers and meet with the kids and see what's going well and what is the work we're most proud of at North. What are traditions we want to hold on to and then plan moving forward, then how to take the pieces that we need to integrate and work on those together as a team. So I think it's about appreciating people, loving them, helping them, coaching them, using them as a resource. I'm gonna be the new person here. So what do I need to know? I learned so much today, just in my hour here before this, but I'm gonna continue to need to tap into the community, into the teachers, and into the kids. And so really tapping into different perspectives and then taking that information and making sure we could be our best by having the best here for kids.
Thank you. It's time for question 2. What do you think is one of the most urgent one of the most urgent equity-based issues facing North High School? I'll read that one more time since I messed it up a little bit. What do you think is one of the most urgent equity-based issues facing North High School?
Is anybody else sweating? Just me, like up here, got really hot. Thank you for the question. Thank you for that. I was already sweating before. So I think when I think about equity, my current school population is 64% of my students are Hispanic. 2 of my teachers are Hispanic. So a lot of my students do not have educators every single day that they interact with that look like them. The bigger thing that creates this issue is that I also don't feel like, regardless of how intentional I am in hiring, that I will be able to hire myself into 64% of my staff, looking like 64% of my students. And so a larger part of the issue isn't that we don't have adults that all of our students can relate to and can see as a role model. It's about the adults that we have not being aware of their bias, of their privilege, and how them just showing up impacts some of their students. And so I think that the combination of not having adults, whether it's a teacher or anyone else in the building that looks like them, that understands their background, that might have shared experience, but it's also about making sure that the people we have are the very best they can be and the best equipped that we can help them be, so that all kids feel welcome, all kids feel safe, all kids feel included in the environment that they show up at. They spend more time here than they spend in their own homes, right? So you want to make that the best space for them. I would say that that's currently an issue in education when we think about equity. I would say also an issue is when we look across the different programs and opportunities that we have for kids, is there equal representation in that data? Does the percentage of students in the honors classes that are Hispanic look like the population of students that are Hispanic in the building? When we look at behavior data, what does that look like? And so I think it's just about really being intentional with what the current state is, getting clear about what we want it to look like, and then building that plan together so that we are creating this environment where all kids, right, regardless of what all is. And I think that's a big step too, as a staff. What does all mean? Unless you take the time to break down all and know what makes up that all, and then getting everybody the skills or the background knowledge that they need to help all, then you just kind of like lumping it in. So I would say that's the biggest issue.
Thank you so much. And the final question is, what is your approach to student culture and behavior management?
Okay, student culture and behavior management. I believe that if you build a school environment that kids want to be in, that takes care of a large portion of the basic, like thinking about like the triangle and where kids land on that. That would take care of about 90% of issues that you see. Is your school and every classroom in it welcoming, safe, and inclusive for all students? What does it look like, right? If we say that, what does it look like? When I go into classrooms, how am I represented in that classroom? Okay? What opportunities does the school offer to help me feel connected to the school? Is there clubs? Is there sports? Is there an adult, right, that's my safe space? When you're really intentional about creating that type of an environment, the majority of behavior takes care of itself. I think another thing that has helped in the schools that I've been in has been taking the time, like going slow to go fast, right? It will never feel fast enough for a school leader or for a teacher to get a school or a classroom to where you want it to be. But if you're able to go slow and be intentional, then the things that you put into place can sustain over time. So when we think about behavior, I like to think about core values. So who do our core values say that we are? Who do our core values, what do they say that we believe about all children? And then what actions align to those values, right? So are we saying these are the things we believe in, but then we model something different in our behaviors? Or is how we show up truly aligned with what we believe for all kids? So I really think it's important to look at your core values, to really determine where we're going, look at the behaviors and alignment. And if we're creating an environment where all kids can connect to either an adult, a club, a sport, a class, they could see themselves after graduation so that they know they need to invest and buy in while they're here. I really believe that that takes care of the majority of behaviors. I like to think that most things that don't get addressed in that could then be addressed through restorative practices. And then there's like those behaviors that it's like, look, you just can't do that. You just can't do that. So we're gonna try and learn and make a different choice next time. But for right now, you can't do that, and you just can't be here right now because it's not safe for yourself or others. So I don't want to act like that's not a part of it, but I think if these other systems and structures are in place, that happens less often.
Excellent. Christina, that was your last question. Thank you so much for spending time with us tonight. Please give Christina a round of applause for coming out here and spending some time with us and allowing us to get to know a little more about her. We will take a couple of minutes of a break just to allow us to swap candidates. If you need to get up, stretch your legs, get some water, do a little shimmy to shake it out, and then we will grab her mom.